Psalm 97 brings this theme, and we've already heard it in Psalm 96, but we'll pick it up here. Psalm 97, verse 1. The Lord reigns. Let the earth rejoice. Let the multitude of isles be glad, or coastlands be glad. Clouds and darkness surround him. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. A fire goes out before him and burns up his enemies round about. His lightnings light the world. The earth sees and trembles. The mountains melt like wax at the presence of the Lord, at the presence of the Lord of the whole earth. The heavens declare his righteousness, and all the people see his glory. Let all be put to shame who serve carved images, who boast of idols. Worship him, all you gods. Zion hears and is glad, and the daughters of Judah rejoice because of your judgments, O Lord. For you, Lord, are most high above all the earth. You are exalted far above the gods. You who love the Lord hate evil. He preserves the souls of his saints. He delivers them out of the hand of the wicked. Light is sown for the righteous, and gladness for the upright in heart. Rejoice in the Lord, you righteous, and give thanks at the remembrance of his holy name. One thing that's interesting here and in the former psalm is the fact that both of them talk about idols. And all the idols, they're just idols. They're not really gods. And hey, you gods, because Paul tells us that the idols of the pagans are really worshiping fallen angelic beings, devils, demons. And what this psalmist is saying, hey, you demons, you think you're getting worshipped? You better worship God, the true God, because he is above all. And so that's interesting that those who for hundreds of years have been seeking after these idols now, thanks to God's spanking and sending them to Babylon, we're recognizing, hey, here we are in the midst of idols. Babylon was huge in that way because Nebuchadnezzar wanted to cover all his bases. So whenever he overtook an area, he took all the gods and idols and things and he brought them back to Babylon. So let's worship them too, just in case one of them is, really there and really the all-powerful God. That's one of the reasons that he emptied the temple and did not destroy all of the temple implements, but came and took them to Babylon and preserved them. And so here's Israel in the midst of all these idols, and they're going, man, you know what? All these idols, they're just idols. They're not really gods. Because what they came to understand is that the Lord reigns. Well, Pastor, it's not all that impressive. The Lord reigns, okay? And that kind of, basic Christianity. Yeah, but you know what? We forget it. In those times in the crucible, we forget it. The Lord must have forgotten me here. Lord, don't you know what's going on? Lord, help me. It's as if we would say, well, the Lord reigns, but not here, not there. No, the Lord reigns. The Lord reigns. My pastor, one of my pastors, Pastor Chuck Smith from Costa Mesa, tells a story about when he was in a small church. And he said there was an elderly woman in the congregation who would kind of trundle up to him at the end of the service, every service, and would say to him, greet him, and he would greet her. And she would say to him, Pastor Chuck, God is still on the throne. And he would nod kind of, oh, isn't that sweet? This old lady, that's as far as she can get in her understanding. And you know what I mean? Just kind of, oh, that's nice. But as his life went on, he began to go through various situations in life and seeing the situations in other lives. And the enemy would say to you, God's not really on the throne. He's not really in control of all things. And he said, I would remember that dear saint coming up to me and saying, Pastor Chuck, the Lord is still on the throne. Whatever you may be experiencing, facing, whatever might be before you, I'm here to tell you, the Lord is still on the throne. The Lord reigns. And the rest of this psalm is intended to remind you of, and who is the Lord? Let's remember who it is who reigns. It's not someone who, gosh, I hope he's got enough strength, enough wisdom to do the right thing. No, He is the one who made the heavens and the earth. He is the one who came up with all of this stuff that men for thousands of years have been trying to figure out, and we're still trying to figure it out. So that, what's his name? Stephen Hawking's? Is it Stephen? Have you heard his latest thing? I haven't read the book. I'm debating reading his latest book, but it got a lot of press because it says, I've basically eliminated the need for God as a creator. You know how he did it? He said, because there is such a thing as the law of gravity, we don't need God. We know that matter and energy spontaneously generated. At least that's the way it's been reported. So if that's not what's actually in the book, sorry, that was what was on CNN and MSNBC and all the other news things. Spontaneous generation. I scratched my head. I almost tried to respond to this one blog, but didn't. Gosh, I thought the first law of thermodynamics was matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed, only change form. It's the idea of the conservation of energy. So science, by definition, cannot explain how matter and energy came to be from nothing by the very definition of what science is. And so people read what Stephen Hawking says and go, oh, he's this great scientist and he's showing us by science how this all happened. No, he isn't. He's being a philosopher of science, because by his very definition of science, unless they change that definition of the first law of thermodynamics, he can't know. And oh, by the way, when I was a kid in school, we were presented these ideas of spontaneous generation as, yeah, gosh, the people who thought of that were really not very smart. They couldn't come up with anything else. And now I'm going, oh, man. We are still trying to figure out how all of this could come into existence and how it works. And just when we thought, oh gosh, the atom, we've got it down to, these three particles and they're working together, but wait, they're doing things that don't exactly line up with that. Oh, there's another layer of subatomic particles. And if the Lord tarries, we'll get down to sub, and sub. What's my point? The Lord reigns. He not only understands how quantum physics really works, He created it. He created it. He is on the throne. And so whatever it is you might be facing, whatever it is that might be tempting you to say, God has forgotten me. No, He hasn't. No, He hasn't. He is still in control. He is still in control. Continue to seek to Him. Continue to sing unto Him that new song and praise His name. And let His direction lead you either out of or through that thing, that situation that you are facing. Psalm 98 says, "Oh, sing to the Lord a new song." Hey, there it is again. "For He has done marvelous things. His right hand and His holy arm have gained Him the victory. The Lord has made known His salvation. His righteousness He's revealed in the sight of the nations. He's remembered His mercy and His faithfulness to the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. Shout joyfully to the Lord, all the earth. Break forth in song, rejoice and sing praises. Sing to the Lord with the harp and the sound of a psalm. The trumpets, the sound of a horn. Shout joyfully before the Lord, the King. Let the sea roar in all its fullness, the world and those who dwell in it. Let the rivers clap their hands. Let the hills be joyful together before the Lord. For He's coming to judge the earth, and with righteousness He shall judge the world and the peoples with equity. Shout joyfully to the Lord. Sometimes when we are worshiping and that spirit of worship is just here, and you can sense the presence of the Lord, and we're going. And sometimes Crystal, like this morning, will say, "Hey, raise your hands. Come on, raise your hands." And she's just so excited in the Lord. Please don't take that as a, hey, raise your hands. That's not what's in her heart. She gets so overwhelmed in the Spirit of God. It's like, hey, come on. Let's shout joyfully to the Lord. Can you imagine getting the best tickets possible at Heinz Field and going to see a playoff game when we are in contention. Man, we've got the possibility. And you're there in the best seat in the house. And you're going, come on, Ben, throw the ball. Come on. I want to be reverent here. No, you're going to go, come on, ref, what was that? Right? It's okay in the right context to do that to the Lord. As a matter of fact, we're commanded to do it all over the place throughout the Scriptures. Shout unto the Lord with the voice of triumph. Man, He has triumphed over the grave. Read 1 Corinthians 15. Read it. And think about it. And try not to just say, thank you, Lord. Wow, He's overcome death. Death has no sting. Grave, there's no victory. Wow. Hallelujah. But also what happens in this psalm and in the earlier psalm is we get this idea of the sea roaring. You know, we have this who was the latest hurricane that just went through? Earl just by. And you see the pictures of that, you know, and they always get the weatherman out there and he's standing there and he's like, and this is what's going on. You know, the sea roaring. Let the earth resound. I love it. Let the trees of the field clap their hands. Let them shout joyfully. Why? Well, the book of Romans, chapter 8, Paul tells us that all of creation was subjected to futility or vanity because sin entered the world. But creation was not responsible for sin entering the world. Man and woman were. So it's like, you know, you remember like third grade when somebody does something wrong and the teacher goes, okay, thanks to Mary doing this, you all are going to have to sit inside during recess today. And you're going, man, why? And it's as if the sea and the trees and creation is going, man, why did you do this to us, you human beings? And it says that creation is groaning for the redemption, because creation itself will be redeemed from the curse of death. You go somewhere beautiful and you look at it and you're so overwhelmed. It's still under the cloud and bondage of sin and death. The new heaven, the new earth are beyond our ability to imagine how beautiful and how amazing it will be. So that when Jesus comes again, creation itself will cry out and sing. In Psalm 99, he says once again, the Lord reigns. Let the peoples tremble. He dwells between the cherubim. Let the earth be moved. The Lord is great in Zion, and He's high above all the peoples. Let them praise your great and awesome name. He is holy. The king's strength also loves justice. You have established equity. You have executed justice and righteousness in Jacob. Exalt the Lord our God and worship at His footstool. He is holy. Moses and Aaron were among His priests, and Samuel was among those who called upon His name. They called upon the Lord, and He answered them. He spoke to them in the cloudy pillar, and they kept His testimonies and the ordinance He gave them. You answered them, O Lord our God. You were to them God who forgives, though you took vengeance on their deeds. Exalt the Lord our God and worship at His holy hill, for the Lord our God is holy. You were to them God who forgives. In Hebrew, that's El Nasa.